Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Well, class, I was just able to connect via digital high speed about 30 seconds before the broadcast. System didn't work, and so feverishly, Jason and I were trying to make it work. It was on our end, and we fixed it. And, these things happen. Dr. Shealy, are you blissed?
Yes.
Well, what's new in the world of Dr. Norm Shealy?
Almost total detachment, 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
I think the current foreign, stupid, evil attempt to cause a pandemic that doesn't really exist in real terms, I mean, the lies, the contradictions are just unreal. It adds up. I mean, there are 10 times more contradiction than there are facts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so what are you seeing as contradictions?
Well, the first, second, third, the CDC insisting that everybody who dies be signed out as dying of the coronavirus, whether they have it or not.
That's ridiculous.
It's not even a decent test yet, Vince.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's ridiculous.
And so the AMA, the FDA, and the government are all part of an evil plot, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty darn sure that we won't get much disagreement around here. Yeah. And it looks like the lockdowns are on the edge of ending, at least many of them.
Well,
and
slowly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I was reading
about even not being fully open by July 4th.
Yeah. I was reading an article about San Francisco, the pandemic of 1918. And we're talking about the Spanish influenza. 500 million infected, 50 million died across the world. And what happened was San Francisco had a pretty serious infection rate. And then they locked down. They did the self-quarantine, if you will. And the rate of infection went way down. And they thought, this is great. And then so they reopened. And then the infection skyrocketed. And this was 1918. So, and it was an influenza. Very similar in terms of infection. A lot of people died. And yet they decided they would lock down, just as we did, and other countries. And then they opened too early. And it came back with a vengeance. What are your thoughts about that, Dr. Shealy? I mean, it seems to be nothing new.
The newness, of course, is the media. I think that's the big difference. The media lips off without having the faintest idea which end is up. And, of course, I don't listen to it, but I get all kinds of bits and pieces through the email.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what happened, so what happened in San Francisco, the man, woman, or child who did not wear a mask became what was called a dangerous slacker, S-L-A-C-K-E-R. So that was from that was a public service announcement from the Red Cross. And the idea was that if you didn't wear a mask, that you were infecting other people. And how dare you? Now, does that make sense? To me, it makes sense. Oh, okay, it doesn't make sense. All right.
I have no idea how effective a little piece of cloth or plastic across your face will be. No, they have there's no test on it. There's no test to prove any of this crap.
Why do doctors wear masks and bonnets and scrubs in the operating room?
Well, now that's a totally different thing. You're in a very careful environment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not room air. It's not outside. It's not even normal room air. It's not even outside room air. It is an environment which has been purposefully sterilized. And therefore, in that kind of environment, breathing can make a huge difference. But in an open room, in the outside, in the sunlight especially, I can't believe that it makes one bit of difference.
Okay. Well, I agree that the sunlight is really, really important. And we have called for months now the ceasing of the protection of the coronavirus by occluding the sun's rays. And I was outside yesterday on the tractor, doing some tractor therapy, and it was a wonderful 1960s style day. The clouds were white and fluffy. The sky was blue. The sun was bright. Almost not quite a record in terms of generating electricity from our system, because I can measure the sun's rays just from my meters. But it was a really wonderful day, warm, and no chemtrails. And we haven't had many chemtrails. Now, we've had a few, but nowhere near the thousands that we used to have, per month. It was great. And I'm wondering if the government understands that this chemical spraying is one of the things that assists the virus
the
in
government
spreading.
might understand anything.
Yeah.
I thought you started that. I don't think the government purposefully, the government does not understand anything, especially the evil that it's doing with spraying the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it sounds like they're recalling the IRS workers. So the government is really conflicted. It seems that, people can't pay their mortgages, people can't pay their rent payments, people can't afford their food, people have not been to work, people are really, really broke, destitute, desperate. And then the government is recalling IRS agents, to throw fuel on the fire. And so what are they going to be doing? Are they going to be auditing us and making things worse? I don't know.
Have they ever made anything better?
I can't think of anything that the government has done well except threaten us.
That's it.
With spying, with invasion, and they get away with it. And I'm thinking that there is some good with this corona panic. And that is that people are starting to realize that the invasion of the 5G is not a good thing. People are burning down cell phone towers in the United Kingdom. Of course, I can't advocate it, but, it's nice to know that people are expressing their views, whereas big corporations and government allow the oppression and the spying on individuals. It's an outrage, absolute outrage. Yeah, it's tantamount to adding money to what the police do. So around here, within 50 miles, what the cops do is they'll go to a bar at night, and they will paint the tires, will put a stripe on a tire of people at the bar. They will trespass. They will invade private property, a bar, and they'll put a mark on the tire which is reflective. And then the cops will go down the road, and they'll wait in the dark. And when the cars go by that have this reflective paint on the tire, they know that was the guy or gal who was at the bar. And then they pull them over for a breathalyzer test. That's just a small speck of what these guys have been doing. They invade our homes with the wireless devices that we think we need to turn on our lights and turn off our lights and adjust our thermostat and lock our doors. I mean, we've become morons. And we've allowed this. It's beyond stupid. And that's why I don't like to go to people's houses, because I just don't know how dumb they are. I don't want to go to somebody's house that, even if they weren't the corona panic, I wouldn't want to go to somebody's house who has one of these devices that lets Amazon and Google and Microsoft monitor all the words that are going on in the house. That's crazy to me, but yet people want to do it. And they pay for it. They literally pay to have themselves spied on. And the government's done a great job of monitoring us. So,
one of the most interesting bits of news just before you came on was apparently the post office has been losing money on delivering items for Amazon. They charge Amazon far below normal, and they lose money on that. Now they want the government to reimburse them.
Wait. Who wants the government to reimburse?
Well, the post office wants bailout from the government, and the government's response is you're not charging enough. I thought that was a bit of interesting news just before you came on.
Well, President Trump did something I thought was really correct. He said several days ago that he was not going to sign more legislation to give handouts until Amazon's rates were increased 4x. So Amazon, we've said for years, how does Amazon do this? I can't ship an empty box across the street, and Amazon can put a cast iron frying pan in a box, pack it, and ship it and deliver it for less than I could ship an empty box across the street. How can they do that? Well, because it's being subsidized by the government. And if you look at who the wealthy people in the world are, they've made a little bit of money from a lot of people. And a lot of times it comes with government subsidies. Like the railroads would steal land, right? Railroads would steal land when they were first being built. And I'm trying to think. So the post office, when the post office first started in the 1700s, Benjamin Franklin was the first postmaster general. And the cost of a stamp was, I believe, 2 cents. Then ultimately went up to 3 cents. And stayed 3 cents until I was a child. In the 1950s, it was 3 cents. And then it started escalating. Now it's 55 cents. So how is that possible that it costs more to mail a first-class envelope today than it did when I was a child? How is it possible that it costs more? Because we have all this automation to make it faster, right? To make it cheaper. And yet it costs almost 20 times more today than when I was a child. 20 times. Going from 3 cents to 55 cents. So you're right. The government makes a lot of mistakes. And every time they make a mistake, they say the same thing. When we catch them, they say, yep, you're right. We're going to have to do better. We're going to have to learn from our mistakes. They never learn from their mistakes. They just keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again.
And inventing new ones.
Right. When we come back, Dr. Shealy, can we talk about ozone? Is ozone a possible treatment, a possible therapy for the coronavirus? Is it possible? Let's talk about that when we come back. Dr. Norm Shealy is with us. NormShealy.com. NormShealy.com. I was talking with one of my friends, a dear friend, right here in Missouri, and I called him up to see how he's doing, and I said, so how you doing? He said, well, we're doing okay. And I said, do you need anything? He goes, you know where I can get a haircut? And I said, I have no clue. I told him he wouldn't recognize me. I haven't had one since December, and so I'm pretty shaggy. And and we were just comparing notes, and Dr. Shealy, I just want to let you know that there's some farmers out here that done some really wonderful things, acts of kindness. And there was a local farmer, a gal who we know, and she heard that we've been thrown off a farm that we used for grazing our cows, and we're really in trouble in terms of hay. And she said, well, you can bring your cows over here. I thought that was the nicest thing. And so there are some people who are really, really kind. And then there's some me-firsters. So situational ethics, situational morality is in play. And class, this is when you're going to find out who your real friends are. So, Dr. Shealy, ozone therapy.
Well, ozone is a sterilizing item, and we've been offering it here, both nasally and in the ears, and intravenously. And intravenously, you remove, the first time you remove, I don't know, maybe 60 cc's of blood and fill it with ozone and pump it back into the bloodstream. But the second time, then you remove 300 cc's, almost over half a pint of blood, and then it sterilizes the blood itself. It helps your immune system immensely.
So we're talking about hyperoxygenating the blood. Is that what you might call this? Uh-huh. And all right. So how often would someone have this done, and why would someone have this ozone treatment?
Well, you could do it prophylactically just to bounce your immune system up, or if you've got a problem like an infection, you might want to do it twice a week, or with cancer, 2 to 3. Well, maybe not more than twice a week most of the time.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of results have you had with ozone treatment? Withdrawing the blood, ozonating it, and then returning it?
Well, I've had it done 3 times, and I can't tell a thing. But then I'm healthy, and but I know it's safe. That's the reason I do it for myself. I have done it several times to prove how safe it is.
And do you have machinery that would inject ozone into the blood, Dr. Shealy? Is there equipment that...
It requires special equipment, yes.
Mm-hmm.
It actually takes, the machine actually takes the oxygen out of an oxygen tank and converts it to ozone, which is O3.
Mm-hmm. Right, O3 is ozone. Okay, and what about ozone in the air? So let's say we have people who are self-quarantined. They're in their apartments, they're in their homes. What about an ozone generator for their own personal use? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think it would be pretty expensive to try to do a whole room, and it isn't going to last very long in open air like that, because anything it touches is going to be active. And it isn't going to harm anything, but it's probably almost a waste of money.
Okay. I have a negative ion generator. Actually, I have a couple of them. And I've had them running 24 hours a day for, in this location, over 15 years.
Right. And that's good. There's something positive about negative ions, yes.
Mm-hmm. And it smells like ozone. So if you put it next to your face and you breathe in the air, it smells like a nice rainstorm has just occurred, and the air is fresh and clean right around this. And it causes the dust particles in the air to be charged so that they fall down and land on the next flat surface that they can find, whether it be furniture or the floor or carpeting. And it's been running. There's no moving parts. All it is a high voltage coil with a fluffy top made out of, it's like stainless steel or a Brillo pad, but without soap, without detergent, and it's made out of brass. And the negative ions just flow out of it. It makes no sound, consumes almost no energy. We'll be right back. I'll tell you a little bit more about it. I have to laugh. Nancy Pelosi endorsed Jumpin' Joe Biden.
One incompetent to another.
Yeah, and the quote was, "We need a forward-looking, battle-tested leader." Jumpin' Joe the plagiarist, forward-looking, battle-tested. Oh man, that's all we need is Jumpin' Joe the plagiarist, and Creepy Joe, some people call him, because he likes to touch people. And gosh, So, Dr. Shealy, we're talking about ozone. We're talking about ozone generators. And I mentioned that we have a couple here at the farm, and they've been running for years nonstop. And I would say I've had one since maybe 1970-something. And this thing's been running virtually nonstop for all those years. And it looks like an ignition coil. It's a cylinder, probably about 2.5 inches in diameter, maybe a foot tall, and it has this fuzzy top on it, and the negative ions just flow out of it. And it causes the dust to become heavier, and the dust in the air, that you can't prevent this dust. It just falls down. So it absolutely works in terms of causing the dust to fall down. There's no question about that. But what about just that kind of a device, a negative ion generator in a room or rooms in your house, as long as you protect yourself from the electromagnetic radiation that is emitted by this high voltage coil?
Well, I think that's a good idea. I don't know whether it has any sterilizing effects as far as viruses are concerned, but I do like the idea.
Mm-hmm. And it seems that the president was talking about ultraviolet light. And he was talking about disinfectants, and we should pursue disinfectants. And he got side wobbled and somehow, and I guess he thought maybe we should consume ultraviolet light or have it put in the body. At least that's what some of the news was alleging. And I don't know if he meant that. I can't imagine he meant just put some ultraviolet light in the body and sterilize it, nor consume disinfectants and put it in the body. It's kind of hard to tell exactly what he was rambling about. I saw the video, but obviously we do not want to consume disinfectants. And disinfectants could be lots of things. Some people might think it might be Clorox or Pine Sol or something like that. Obviously, we don't want to consume those. What were your thoughts? Did you see that video of what he was talking about at the press conference?
I did not. I watch very few videos. I would say maybe one a week. I just don't find the time to watch them.
Well, I got to tell you, it was pretty painful to watch it. But he did say his remarks did allude to the fact that ultraviolet light might be something worth pursuing. Well, you and I have been talking about that for a long, long time, the sterilization effects of ultraviolet light C, but we've also talked about how it can blind you. So it's really, really dangerous to play with if you don't know what you're doing and experiment with, but you do not want to look at ultraviolet light. But it is that light class that you've seen, that eerie-looking light blue-colored or light violet-colored light at restaurants, in the kitchens. You might even see them in the walls of, near the kitchens of some restaurants. And it's a disinfecting light. So the idea is let the air contact the light, but not let the light contact your eyes. So that's the plan with that. Any comments on that, Dr. Shealy, for purification of water or air?
Well, I think I've mentioned before that all the water that comes into our entire facility at home goes through ultraviolet.
Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about that over the last several months. It's been raining here. Is it raining at your place like almost every day or every other day? Is your ground soggy?
Yeah, we've had a couple of inches of rain last week.
Okay, well, it's been raining here. We can't walk outside the house without rubber boots on, literally, because there's no place to step that's not a puddle. And so the ground is really soggy. And that brought to my mind my concern about water wells. Now, let's say it's not our water well. Let's say it's our neighbor's. And the water is soggy, and let's say they put Roundup. Let's say they put, some sort of chemical on the ground. Let's say they change the oil and let the oil drain on the ground. Well, if that seeps down the well casing, down the well pipe, and into the water, or it finds a hole and it seeps into the underground water, we could be consuming toxic water. It could be good today and bad tomorrow, or it could be good yesterday and bad today. So we don't know. So one of the things that I was thinking about, Dr. Shealy, is shocking the water well more frequently with chlorine bleach. Let's say maybe a cup of just plain old chlorine bleach once every few months. Do you think that with increased rain and increased pollution that we should consider that or not?
I don't know that a cup in a water well would do much. I remember once when we had our pump replaced, we put a gallon down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
that's the only time we've actually done it because we have ultraviolet.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what you're doing is you're protecting 24/7 with your ultraviolet light.
Yes.
Okay. So do you want me to describe what that machine does, or would you like to tell the class what we're talking about?
Well, it's a machine that we had put on by a company here in Springfield. They come out once a year to check and to replace the ultraviolet light. But every bit of water that comes out of that pump, no matter where it goes into our system, is filtered through ultraviolet, which does sterilize the water.
Mm-hmm. So, class, if you want to think about what this might look like, think about a tube. Let's say it's 2.5 inches in diameter, and you can't see through it. And inside that tube is an ultraviolet light, like a fluorescent tube, except it's ultraviolet. And it's powered by electricity, so the water circulates between the ultraviolet light and the outer tube. And this outer tube may be 2 feet long, it may be 3 feet long, depending on the volume of water that runs through it. So the ultraviolet light just penetrates the water surrounding the ultraviolet light. And the ultraviolet lights last about 8,000 hours, and then they become less effective. So 8,000 hours, if you do the math, you'll figure out that that's about once a year, running 24 hours a day. So that's why the bulbs get replaced once a year. That's the good thing. The bad thing is the bulbs come from China.
Maybe in trouble this year.
Well, you might want to get some extra replacement bulbs, Dr. Shealy. Seriously.
2 or 3.
Yeah, we have a similar system here at our house, and I bought extra bulbs for it. So I don't know if the supply is broken, the supply chain is broken or not for those ultraviolet bulbs. Maybe we'll start making those items that are necessities here in this country again. That'd be kind of nice. Dr. Shealy's a CNN article, and it says, quote, "The food supply chain is breaking," end quote. Tyson says as plants close. So Tyson Foods is warning that millions of pounds of meat will be disappearing from the supply chain as the coronavirus pandemic pushes food processing plants to close, leading to product shortages in grocery stores across the country. The food supply chain is breaking, wrote board chairman John Tyson in a full-page advertisement published in the New York Times, Washington Post, and Arkansas Democrat Gazette. U.S. farmers don't have anywhere to sell their livestock, he said, adding that millions of animals, chickens, pigs, and cattle will be depopulated because of the closure of processing facilities. There'll be a limited supply of our food products available in grocery stores until we're able to reopen our facilities that are currently closed. Tyson Foods employs roughly 100,000 workers. They closed the pork plants in Waterloo, Iowa, Logansport, Indiana last week so that workers in those facilities could be tested for the virus. So it was on to say that the Waterloo plant closure came after weeks of public pressure. Production had already slowed there because many of its 2,800 workers had been calling out sick, and local health authorities linked Tyson plant to 128 cases, nearly half of the county's total, which means infected with the coronavirus. Half of the county's people infected came from Tyson. So, the Tyson plant. So here we have the meat supply is damaged. And who's been infected? Well, it would be Smithfield Foods, JBS Foods, and Tyson. And I believe Purdue as well. So now it looks like about at least 15% of the pork production is offline, 15%. I was talking with someone about this over the weekend, and I mentioned that during the 1973-74 Arab oil embargo, 5% of the fuel was shut off to the United States, and that caused an absolute crisis just to withdraw 5% of the fuel because people couldn't get to work. There was odd, even gas rationing. I mean, people who are young wouldn't believe it if we said that you could only get gasoline, about $3 worth, for your car after you lined up starting at 4 o'clock in the morning to get to the gas station before they shut off the pumps at 9 o'clock in the morning. And you had to have the right license plate for that day. So if your license plate ended with an odd number, you could get fuel only on odd numbered days. You remember that, Dr. Shealy?
Oh, yeah. Insanity is not new.
But that was 5%. So now we're talking just 15%, 3 times as much pork withdrawn. And that's just the beginning. I believe that we're going to see more and more of these slaughtering plants shut down and these processing plants shut down. And people are going to see the price of meat escalate. And at the same time, the farmers have no place to sell their products because the auction houses that we would typically bring our cows to have no place to put the cows. So it's kind of like oil. You know, the oil, there's plenty of crude oil, and it's on the ocean right now, and there's, I don't know, between 50 and 100 million barrels of oil coming our way, and we have no place to put it. Our facilities are full. So there's plenty of oil, but no place to put it. People aren't driving. People aren't going to the stores as much as they used to, and now people like us who raise cows, we have to find other ways. Now, the good news is we will find other ways. The good news is we will reduce our dependence on these big producers, and meat and produce will become more local, which is great news. And that way we won't be fleeced by these big companies. Dr. Shealy, I'd love to hear your comments when we come back. I know you raise beefalo, and what are your thoughts about raising your own beef? Is it something that people should consider? Should they move out to the country, get a cow or 2 or 5 or 20? And what are your thoughts about moving to the country? We'll be right back with Dr. Norm Shealy. Class, Dr. Shealy is with us, normshealy.com, normshealy.com. Dr. Shealy is a medical doctor and a PhD ×3 author, etc., and Surgeon of the Year. Dr. Shealy, you talk with a lot of patients and a lot of people. Do you think that many are considering the kind of lifestyle that you and I have and others have, like Gwyneth Isaacs?
I think very few want to go back to that. But I've lived it all my life. You know, I remember very early in life seeing my grandfather butcher a hog, late in October, South Carolina, cut the throat and hung it up in a tree to drain, and then butchered it and put it into a smokehouse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not pretty. It's not pleasant. It's messy. But it's life.
That is a simple way of doing it. My grandmother, of course, cooked chicken and canned it, and they had a totally self-sufficient farm with a well that had no electricity. The well was hand-drawn, a bucket of water at a time. Until I was 12 years old, I think they finally got electricity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a very simple life, and I was outside on the tractor over the weekend, and working here at the farm, and I didn't hear any planes overhead, didn't see any con trails nor chem trails, no cars, trucks, buses, horns. It was very, very quiet here on the farm, and I imagined that it would be like that back in the 1800s, except we do have electricity and we do have gasoline and those kinds of things. Modern conveniences, refrigeration, and electric pumps for water and so forth. But it was really nice to see the peace and the quiet of, just being outside without the noise of lots of people, noise that they make. Do you think that the lifestyle that we lead is too difficult for most people, Dr. Shealy? Is that why they don't want to do it?
Well, they don't understand it, obviously. They don't have the mechanical experience of having to do those kinds of things. I mean, they're accustomed to watching television instead of butchering a hog, that kind of thing. But is it that once you've learned certain skills, it's not that different?
Right. And, one of the things that happens on farms everywhere throughout the world is things break. Things break all the time. I mean, literally, farming is fixing broken things, broken tools, broken implements, broken machinery. That's what farmers do. When they're not doing what you might consider farming, they're fixing all the things that broke while they were farming. And that is a lifestyle, and it's a lifestyle of making sure you learn how to make all kinds of repairs and improvements. Dr. Shealy, there's a warship, U.S. Navy warship, and the warship is what's a destroyer? It's a destroyer, and the name of what is the name of it?
Roosevelt?
Well, no, that's another one. Yeah, it's the USS Kidd, Kidd.
Right. Yeah.
And it's heading back to port because last Thursday it had 18 confirmed cases of the coronavirus, and 4 days later it has 33. So, and they've had a couple evacuations, medical evacuations. It seems that nursing homes and ships, cruise ships, military ships, etc., are like the best place to transmit the coronavirus. Why is that, Dr. Shealy?
They're like incubators, You have people crowded together.
Okay.
And people crowded together does increase the risk.
So then social distancing is our friend, yes?
Well, I have mixed feelings. I think common sense and some not so great mixing, but the degree that we have today, I think, is a little bit excessive because we need some exposure for so-called herd immunity. Many people get bugs and don't even develop the disease. Their antibody system is good enough. They just become immune to it. And so people who are frail, who've got diabetes, hypertension, obesity, they're the ones who should be isolated because they're the ones who are at great, great risk of dying of the disease.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going into the top of the hour break, and one of the things I have on my list to talk to you about is, are the self-quarantines, the lockdowns, are they generally causing our immune systems to be less vigorous because we're not lazy? Yeah, are they? And what are your recommendations in this absolutely crazy time where we can't believe the news, we can't even believe what we see, let alone what we read, hear, and watch? Can you tell us what your thoughts are? What should we do, Dr. Shealy? We'll be right back. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked, hour number 2 of A USA Prepares. Dr. Norm Shealy's with us. Dan in Texas, welcome. You're on with Dr. Norm Shealy.
Hi, good morning, both of you guys. I'm hoping you're both blessed.
Great. What's up?
My question about your ozone. What do you think about drinking ozone water, and how much should I do per day?
I'm not opposed to it by any means. I'm not sure it's worth the cost.
Okay. And wanted to get an update on your moringa trees. I have 2 little seedlings that came in, and I transplanted them the other day, and just wanted to see how you guys are. You're probably a year ahead of me.
Yeah, mine are about 3.5 feet tall.
You must have more sun than I do, Dr. Shealy. Mine are only about 2 feet tall.
Oh, interesting. They've been in my greenhouse.
How are you?
They just are in a little greenhouse.
Oh, that's why.
Faces south. Yeah.
Ours are in a window.
Yeah, probably about half as much sun. Yeah.
And what would be the benefits?
Dr. Shealy, Dan would like to know the benefits.
The benefits? Well, there's no benefits if they get big enough that you can eat the leaves and the fruit.
So when these trees mature, Dr. Shealy, what are the benefits? I think that's what Dan is asking.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, a serving of Moringa oleifera has more vitamins and minerals than any other known serving of food. It's got more vitamin C than an orange, more vitamin A than spinach, more magnesium than most other plants. It's just a broad spectrum, good, and a single serving has 5 grams of protein. So I'm not expecting to get enough. I'm not quite sure mine will ever get to the point where I'm eating the leaves and that kind of thing, but it was just fun to do. I still do mine. Mine is core super mix every day.
You put part of the moringa in there?
Well, no, I buy it from the company. Core Super Mix Moringa is, made by a company called Zija, Z-I-J-A, and that's what I've been taking for about a year.
You get it from your website?
Yes, it's on my website.
Okay, good. All right. Well, I think the last commercials, it talked about people are working from home. It looked like it raised about up to 25% from whatever they said, 12 or 13%. But I'm thinking 100 years ago, how many people worked from home, and then 200 years ago, how many people worked from home. So I wonder, watching all the Walking Dead and Jericho and all these shows. In fact, I started watching the 2008 series for Survivors, and how the world as we know it will never be the same. Your thoughts?
I have a sneaking suspicion that this is so politically contrived, it is purposefully never going to be the same again. And I don't know whether it's the left wing, the right wing, or both wings clapping that are causing the problem, but I believe it is 90% contrived and 10% real.
Dan, from my perspective, Jericho was a series that ran for about a year and a half, and it was about some nuclear detonations throughout the country to take down the government. And what it focused on was the day-to-day lives of people in a rural town, what happened to them, and how the lack of commerce, the lack of goods and services, the lack of normality of the everyday hustle and bustle that people were used to changed instantly, how that impacted them. And I thought that was a great way to see how friends could turn against friends, how one town who used to compete in sports games with the other town, the neighboring town, with high school type sports, how they became enemies and literally went to war over supplies and survival. I thought it was a great way to learn what that could be like. And I have to tell you that I have lost a lot of friends, former friends, over this corona panic, literally. People who I used to talk to every day, multiple times a day, won't talk to me anymore. People who I considered friends have abandoned me, literally have abandoned me, made my life miserable, and they will never become my friends again. I mean, there's no restoring that after these awful things that they've done to my family. Kurt Wilson and I came up with these two terms, situational morality and situational ethics. And, you can have an agreement with someone, and then things change. So, for example, in Jericho, these two towns got along really well until there were supplies that people needed, and they both needed the same supplies. And so they went to war. So that's it. The situation changed, ethics changed, friends no longer were friends, friends became enemies, like instantly. And that's what happened to me. People declared war on me and my family because their stupidity, their greed put them in positions where they became desperate. And I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen it up close firsthand, and there's no fixing it in my world. I mean, someone can't change their morality and ethics and then say, yeah, no, I was just kidding. No, it's okay now because things have gotten better. That's not going to happen in my world. Yeah. And I'm talking about people who were instructors. One
of my favorite statements, halitosis is better than no breath at all.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I agree with that, Dr. Shealy, but
I'm just being facetious about nonsense.
So Dan, Dan, have you experienced anything like what you watched in Jericho or The Walking Dead? Now, when we talk about The Walking Dead, the series, obviously we're pulling out the zombies and that, but we are leaving in the omnipresent threat of lots of people who want what you have. Now, the zombies in The Walking Dead want what you have, meaning your body, as nutrition. They want to eat you. Okay, so that's that omnipresent threat, 24/7. You look out the window, you see them. You walk down the road, you see them. You look in outside the fence, you see them. And they want to get in, and they want to kill you, and they want to eat you. So you can call that the coronavirus. You can call that influenza. You can call that a pandemic. You can call it whatever you want. But the point is, it's omnipresent. And Survivors is kind of similar to that. And there's this omnipresent threat, and the world has changed. And how do you trust people whom you don't know when you look down your driveway and two guys or three or four or five or six are walking down your driveway toward your house? Are they your friends? Are they saying, hey, listen, we got this wagon of food and we're just, distributing it up and down the road? Or do they want what you have? More likely than not, they want what you have, and more likely than not, they're dishonest. Have you seen, I guess you've taken away that from watching these three series that you mentioned. Is that right, Dan?
Yes. In fact, every once in a while, listening to you on Monday, I hear the word herd. And the other day when I was walking into the Chinese outlet factory, a.k.a. Walmart, I saw a herd masked. And I thought, ooh, wouldn't that be interesting if season 11 had them walking into a Chinese factory outlet with masks instead of just their normal zombie-looking self that they are on The Walking Dead. But I think the word herd has changed in my dictionary thought process after watching this and applying it to most of those people out there that most people perish because they lack knowledge and they reject knowledge from the Bible. And I just see a lot of these people, if they were just building up their immune system and not worry about, the mask is going to solve everything, they would probably not have to be so much in fear.
I totally agree with you.
So have you, do you tend to agree with that watching Jericho, The Walking Dead, and Survivors series from 1975 and the 2000 era series was worth doing? Was it?
Yes, in the 2008 series, they took off Netflix about 2 months ago. I thought that was kind of ironic because it talks about a virus that came out, and I thought, I wonder why they're not going to take off the other one. But I ended up going through Amazon and buying the first season through Amazon. But it was interesting that they took it off of Netflix because it probably talks about virus and the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there are a number of people who think that this is still a fraud and a hoax. I am still concerned about it. I am still keeping distance. And But then again, I live on a farm, and we can do that very easily. We just do what we normally do, and we don't see very many people here. But I can tell you that it has absolutely damaged the supply chain. It has absolutely damaged meat production. It has damaged the price of almost everything, from oil to beef to pretty much everything. I put some things in my cart at Sam's Club to buy, and I've been unable to buy them. And then, I keep doing the same thing. I leave them in the cart, and I go to checkout, and then it says there are no pickup times available. There's, can't get them, out of stock. But what they do is they increase and decrease the prices. So while it's in the cart, from one day to the next, the prices go up and down. Have you seen that, Dan?
I have not through, maybe through Amazon. I've seen a few fluctuations, but I'm not on the Walmart one, Sam's Club.
Yeah, this would be Sam's Club. Sam's Club, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not.
And
I'm not
so I keep taking screenshots. I've been a member of Sam's Club for, I think since, it's got to be close to 27 years now. I keep taking screenshots. Every time that, I try to buy something, it says, there's, you can't get it, or out of stock, or no pickup times available. Not that I want to pick it up. I'm just saving all these screenshots to show Sam's Club that my membership is worthless. Because I can put something in the cart, one item, and it'll say there are no pickup times available. Not that I want to pick it up. I'm just trying to prove to them through a history of all these screenshots that I'm going to print out, that maybe 20 of them, that exactly why do I have this now? Why do I pay for a subscription or a membership for something that I can't use? Now, I can use it to buy gasoline, except who's going anywhere? I don't need gasoline right now. And I haven't needed it for, as a matter of fact, I've canceled most of the insurance. Class Dr. Norman Shealy is with us, normshealy.com. Dan's with us in Texas. Dan, what are you seeing in Texas regarding the corona panic, which is my term for what society does while enduring the coronavirus? What have you seen in terms of supplies, traffic, normal routines, work, things like that? What are you seeing in your world?
I think people are definitely trying to keep their social distance. Today, they have it where you have to wear a mask when you're outside. So today's the first day on that in different counties. I think for the most part, people aren't, how should I say, pretending it's Black Friday at a Walmart, where they rush in to grab the toilet paper and grab as many. I haven't seen that yet, but living in other states prior to Texas, I would think maybe some of those communist states would probably, did I say the word communist? I'm sorry, democratic states would be a little more me. I think Texas is more of a, how should I say, more of a family state and more caring about your neighbor.
Have you seen more or less or the same police presence? And have you seen the police pulling people over more or less? What we used to see on the highways and byways? How has that changed, or has it not?
That's a good question, because the blue plague, I think, have probably felt like if I pull someone over and they're coughing, what do? Hey, just don't speed. Don't do that again. I wonder what their thought process, because they got a family that they got to protect. I think for most of them, they're probably like, well, maybe if it's a minor altercation, maybe we'll just flash the lights and maybe go right next to them and have, slow down kind of thing, instead of pulling them over and saying, hey, let's see if I can more of the blue plague than normal.
That's what I used to see when I was younger. If the police were behind a vehicle, they'd fly up on them, track them for a little bit, flash the lights, let them know, hey, I saw you, and then the police car would just pull away, not pull the person over. Just let them know, they happen to be noticed speeding or whatever they were doing, but not pulling them over. And then that became really aggressive in the last few years, where the police were pulling almost everybody over, for revenue purposes. Dan, what are there any takeaways that you have gotten from this broadcast? Have you learned things that you've put into practice in your life, or are we just repeating things that maybe you already knew?
No. I want to thank Dr. Bill Deagle because I listened to him a lot, and I think it was a couple years ago during tax season that either you were on his show or vice versa. So that's how I found out about you. So I think if you probably weren't on his show, I might not have been. My eyes aren't wide open like they are now. And I do like listening to him because he has a lot of medical background too. I think from my backyard garden to, learning more about how to be more self-sufficient, different things for looking at my future car that needs to be repaired. Boy, I got a lot of work to do as far as learning all that. Am I ready when when the lights go out, so to speak? I still have a lot to do, and I'd probably say 1% of 1% of the United States are ready for that. So I think over the last couple of years, listening, I mainly just listen on Mondays because I'm more into health, and I wish I spent all 5 days like I used to. I think the last 3 months I just listened to the Mondays. And just to kind of change the subject, if I were to, in the future, walk into one of those Chinese factory outlets and Dr. Hill Gates, or is it Bill Gates? I always mispronounce it, sorry. If he has a mandatory injection for someone like myself, Dr. Shealy is, I think Dr. Bill mentioned something about First Nation, and I don't know much about it, but is there a way that I could, because I'm part of a certain entity or nation, that I don't have to get this future injection?
Dr. Shealy, what he's
That's a great question. Yes, there is. The only way I can see is to become a minister in a Native American
hold that
tribe.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. Dan, please stay with us. Great question. Dr. Shealy's with us. Dan in Texas is with us. Dan, you had a question. I believe the question was, when we are faced with you will take the Gates vaccine, the tracking vaccine for the coronavirus, what will you do? Is that part of the question? How do you resist it? Is that right? Okay. Dr. Shealy, your thoughts?
There is a federal law passed in the Clinton administration that exempts Native American, in fact, any sacrament of a major religion. So if you become a part of a major religion, but it has to be a sacrament of the church. And the Nemenha, of which I am a member, has such a sacrament that there is no circumstance under which any of us would take a vaccine. We believe in natural immunity.
So, Dr. Shealy, I as well am Nemenha, and there are a number of us. What is the path through which one becomes Nemenha?
Well, you ask for spiritual adoption. It's fairly simple. You just apply. I have nothing to do with, with the application or approving it, but all you have to do is fill out a simple spiritual application.
I'm going to do a quick search and see if we can find that for you, Dan, on the internet.
Nemenha.org.
Right. Nemenhah. Nemenhah.org. Nemenhah.org. And let's see. There's some quick links right on the first page. It's the medicine wheel courses, natural remedies, healthcare, licensed practitioners, the Constitution, the Code, and let's see. I'm looking for resources and contact us. Okay, so you can click on the contact tab and pursue becoming Nemenha.
Okay, so N is in Nancy. I'm sorry, I put M as in Mary for the first letter. Okay. I see it now.
NEMENHAH.org. Chief Cloud Piler is the head of the Nemenhah tribe.
Did you say Cloud Piler?
Or band of tribes. Yeah.
Okay. So that's kind of like in
Chief Cloud.
the United... okay.
Yeah, Chief Cloud Piler, Piler.
Okay, because I think of the person that just, that Nancy Pelosi, she might be something else that is a BS Tyler.
Dr. Shealy, would you like to share a little bit about who Chief Cloud Piler is?
Well, he is a great-grandson of Chief Joseph of the Nez Perce Indians, and it goes back, several hundred years. And I happen to like basic native spirituality. Nature is part of God's creation, and I think it's a more real, to me, down-to-earth foundation than some of the other more organized churches. But I met him. He is actually a naturopath by training and experience, and I'm a great, fond friend of, and actually the sort of keeper of the sacred vibration sacrament.
This is a great website. I'm going to take more time to look into this.
And according to my understanding, Dr. Shealy, that spiritual adoption is by invitation only, or
you ask,
and/or special
you
ordination.
have to apply and then get invited. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you may want to consider doing this, Dr. Shealy. We at one time were looking at being recognized by a nation and having a treaty with that nation. What is the result of that?
Well, there's typical government nonsense. The Royal Maya have something like $6 billion in assets, but they're having trouble getting the American government to accept them.
Accept them as a nation, you mean?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And so, therefore, our treaty is being held up?
Of course. Over a year and a half held up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it looks like there's no rush to get anything done in the government now because, a lot of government employees are at home watching Netflix, pretending they're working, clogging up the Internet. Dan, is there anything else any other questions you have for Dr. Norm Shealy?
No, that'll do it. Hey, thank you guys. Keep up the good work.
Okay, you're welcome. That's Dan in Texas. And I just want to say, class, for many of you, I've been unable to return phone calls. I am just clogged up with just trying to keep the farm afloat. We've got a caller on hold. I'm sure Jason will get to you. Just hang in there, and Jason will answer the phone. Just let it keep going. Dr. Shealy, there's a Virginia preacher, and he decided that God can heal anything. And so he went from Virginia down to New Orleans, and he was going to play music and, preach and so forth. And he became infected, and now he can hardly move. He's not the first. He's not the second. He's one of many preachers who have decided that he was going to not self-quarantine. He was going to defy logic and go into the crowd, and now the guy can hardly move. This is just one more case, and in California over the weekend, the beaches opened up, and people were really close to each other, and I'm sure that, many of them knew each other, but they were really close on the beach. Do you have any comments about that, Dr. Shealy? Is that flagrant disregard of others? Or do you think the sunlight is the disinfectant and it'll be okay? Or what are your thoughts about just people being under quarantine, told they can't go out, and then they're told, yeah, you can go out now, and then they race out? Do you think that that is a wise thing to do or unwise thing to do? Because it seems to me that sunlight is a good thing, but close contact is not a good thing. What are your thoughts?
Well, I agree. Close contact is not a good thing, and sunlight is a great thing, but I do think even outside I wouldn't want to be in a crowd.
Okay. There's a guy in the White House. His name is Kevin Hassett. And he says, he's an economic advisor, and he says that second quarter gross domestic product will be the biggest negative number seen since the Great Depression. And he says that, the government was expecting unemployment to be 16 to 17%. And now he's saying, well, it looks like it could be the 20 to 30% range. I think he's on to something. We've said that way before he said it, weeks and weeks before, maybe a month or two before he said it, that the numbers would be way higher. And it looks like that is the case. It's going to be very difficult to reopen all these businesses that have been temporarily shut down. It's very hard to come back from that. Dr. Shealy, so that means to me that we're looking at depression.
Yes.
Not only the second Great Depression, but
1932 will seem like a good year.
Yeah, I agree with that, because we're looking at all kinds of shortfalls in the supply chain. Robert in Kansas, welcome. You're on with Dr. Norm Shealy. And by the way, Robert, I just want to let you know that I have a call screen in front of me, and I can see the calls that are ringing, and I can see the calls that have been answered with the automated system. But when they're answered by the automated system, I can't tell who that person is and if they are on the line for USA Prepares or not. So I want to thank you for holding, and that's why I mentioned that I saw that there was a call, but I didn't know it was you. So thank you for holding, and you're on with Norm Shealy, Dr. Shealy.
Vincent, Dr. Shealy, good morning, gentlemen. I wanted to talk about the mask and stuff like that. But first, I wanted to say, Vincent, to you especially, is that the baby-killing Satanists that spray the sky with aluminum, they do not want to save you from a virus. They just don't. And that's the situation we're in. They're going to try to put a vaccine in you because of all this. They might release a real bioweapon at some point, but I believe this is a test run so they could figure out how to take down the economy is what it really is. Under Trump, we already had agriculture and the military, but under Trump, we're bringing back manufacturing, we're bringing back technology, and most importantly, energy independence was coming back to America. It was through fracking, which is, if I was in charge, wouldn't happen ever. But even so, the oil was flowing. And so I believe that the globalists cannot have a sovereign American nation able to resist world government. And this is an attack to destroy the American nation by way of economic collapse. I do think that's what this is. Coronavirus, it's been around forever. It's on the back of Lysol cans. It's a common cold. So when you go get a test, if you fought off the common cold in the last few years, you're going to have antibodies and exomes of a potential variant of the common cold, the coronavirus, in your system. So anybody who goes into a hospital and dies, they test him. They say, oh, he has corona antibodies, so he died of coronavirus. And then the hospital gets a huge check for each person who comes or dies of coronavirus. So I do believe, like Dr. Shealy said, it's contrived 90%. Could there be a novel coronavirus that is deadly? Absolutely. And I wouldn't wish that on anybody. But I think that the supply chain snapping is ultimately what's going to kill a lot of Americans, and not some disease. And if they wanted to give us a disease, Vince, they just spray it from airplanes. They just they just cover us with it, which might happen. I don't know. But I don't think this is what the media, what CNN and Fox News and all these people, I just don't think it is what they're telling us it is, which there's nothing new there, right? The media is lying to us. But I did want to talk about masks and gloves, but okay.
When is the media not lied to us? Give me one example.
Roger that, Doctor.
Robert, I agree with everything you said. I really did. I do. And I said day one in January that the big part of this is not so much the virus as it is the panic that ensues from the virus and the supply chain breaking. It's exactly what I said, and I believe that's what you said. We'll be right back. Please hold on the line, Robert. It's a quick message. I received a number of emails from Amit Singh, and he asked for John Reagan to come join us again. And I've talked to John Reagan over the weekend, and we're trying to make that happen on Friday. So Amit Singh, you asked for it, and we're trying to make that happen. So it could happen this Friday. And class, just one other announcement. Tyson Foods said that it's going to be killing 2 million chickens. They're going to kill them, not for food, but because of the lack of employees in their chicken processing plants. They also temporarily closed a beef processing plant in Washington State. At least 13 plants in total have closed across the United States for food processing. So this is as a direct result of the corona panic. The supply chain is broken. Robert?
Yes, Vince, I had a question for Dr. Shealy. I'm not a doctor, so I was wondering what he thought about wearing a mask all the time. That would impede natural respiration. It could change the amount of humidity in the lungs, stuff like that. And then, we have the gloves and the Lysol, the alcohol in the hands, the hand washing. I was wondering what he thought about that, if that's detrimental to our health.
I don't wear a mask, and I'm at the office 4 days a week at least. And I'm not going to wear a mask in here. I would in the operating room, but not here. Now, I do use a lot of alcohol hand wiping. It's a lot quicker than soap and water.
Okay. I was just wondering about that. I thought maybe it could cause respiratory issues, in itself, wearing a mask all the time. If you're going to rip sheetrock off your basement wall, you're going to mow the yard or something, I understand. Or like you say, as a doctor, if you need to put on a mask, you do. But wearing one all the time, I see these employees, these poor people, they're all day in their job wearing this mask. And I'm wondering if that's going to cause health issues,
All right, let's take it to the next level, Robert. So Dr. Shealy, he's right on point with this, in my opinion. There are people who have had trouble getting masks. So what they do is they have one, and they use it, and then they put it away, and then they use it again. And they put it away, and they use it again.
That's the worst thing in the world. Once it's used, it should be thrown away if you can't sterilize it. And I don't know how you could really sterilize one at home.
And I think that's one of the things that you're talking about, Robert, as well as just constantly humidifying that mask with germs and biologicals that you exhale, and then you give them the oxygen, and you give on contact on the masks that are living on the masks now. As you exhale, you're giving them everything they need to breed and multiply and reinfect you. I think that's one of the points that you were trying to make. Is that correct?
Yeah, Vincent, that is a good point. And yeah, if you touch the outside of your mask, and it's just the body works in the natural way that it does, and you start messing with that, even wearing gloves all the time. I mean, it might not seem like anything, but if your skin respirates as well. And so you're blocking all of this, and it just seems like they could be causing an illness that way. And then, they could, you go in to be treated, and they're like, oh, you got common cold coronavirus, exomes, and so you must have the COVID. And it's like, I really do think this is a theater. Now, it's worldwide. I mean, it's one of those things. I described the moon. I compared it to the moon landing at one point, Vincent. Everybody agrees on that. All the nations, China's growing potatoes on the moon, right? So everyone agrees on that.
China's not growing potatoes on the moon. I mean, that's a great exaggeration. China has sprouted some potatoes. So are they growing them? Not really. Are they trying to grow them? Maybe. Okay. Would you agree with that, Robert?
I agree, Vince, and I think what sets above the nation states, the banker class, I think they're the ones that are able to coordinate such a worldwide deception where you do get all the nations working together, because if you control the money and your nation state is a corporation, right, corporations run on what? They run on money. So we fought a civil war over that, right? They took us from a constitutional republic to a corporation. And, now everyone has to pay taxes to the government. And so, Vince, it's a crazy time to be alive. And I think there might be an opportunity here, though, if people can break that conditioning and see that they're being lied to, we might have a new world in front of us that could be so much better. And if not, well, we're going to go under globalist rule, I think. And it's going to be mark of the beast time, take your vaccine or you don't get to buy and sell.
Robert, I was thinking of a new product line for this time. What do you think about making baseball bats pre-covered with barbed wire? What do you think about that?
I don't know if there'd be much of a market for that, Vincent, but it would be fun.
Yeah, Lucille, we're talking about, and it would be the brand name would be Lucille. And I can see these things walking around, after this subsides, after maybe 20 years, and we start to pull out of the economic collapse that this has put us in. And I'm talking about the corona panic. Dr. Shealy, thank you so much for being with us. Robert, thank you for your breath of fresh air.